Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Iqbal's Inspirations and Insights with Fahad Khan. When speaking about intellectual enslavement and its effects on us, Allama Iqbal says the following lines in Bal Jibreel. He starts out by saying, Ye bindagi khudai, wo bindagi gadayi, ya banda khuda ban, ya banda zamana. That when it comes to choosing your path, pick one side. On one hand, you have the option of being the slave of God. On the other hand, you have the option of being the slave of this world. If you become the slave of God, your enslavement is divine. If you become the slave of the world, your enslavement is just like the beggar, who begs for money and things, and then he runs out of it, and then he goes on to begging for more, and it's like a cyclical pattern that never ends. But then he reminds us and he says, غافل نہ ہو خودی سے کر اپنی پاسبانی شاید کسی حرم کا تو بھی ہے آستانہ. Don't become heedless of your khudi, of yourself, and protect your own self and your dignity, your self-confidence, your self-worth, because you never know that you might be the door to some divine sanctuary. You never know what you might be worth. So before you make that choice, keep that in mind. If you're going to give up on yourself, remember, you might have that ability to become something, and you might be giving up on that ability. Everybody who has become famous in this world has done something with their life. At some point, they had the option. Either they choose to become the slave of this world or their values. And if they had made the wrong choice, then they wouldn't be known. Then they wouldn't have accomplished what they had done in this world. And for us Muslims, Allama highlights the most important aspect, which is our tawheed. He says, "Ey la ilah ke wāriths, باقی نہیں ہے تجھ میں گفتار دلبرانہ کردار قاہرانہ." He says, O beholder of tawheed, la ilah. La ilah is what? There is no one worthy of worship. It is the first and the most essential part of our tawheed. The negation that we have to go through first. There is no one worthy of worship. No physical entity, no metaphysical entity. Not even our status, not even ourself, which is probably the most important idol that we have to destroy. So we have to overcome that in order to continue with illallah. Because you cannot accept God as the only one worthy of worship if you think that you are worth something. So he says, O beholder of la ilah, the one who's supposed to take that divine certainty of tawheed, you no longer have that inside of you. You no longer contain inside of you two of the most important qualities. And what are those qualities? Guftar dilbarana, kirdar qahirana. Conversation or speech that would captivate and melt the hearts, and character that would intimidate and strike fear into the hearts and minds of other individuals. And then he says, تیری نگاہ سے دل سینوں میں کانپتے تھے کھویا گیا ہے تیرا جذبے قلندرانہ. That zeal of qalandar that used to be inside of you, which translated into what? That glance from you which used to shake and tremble the hearts. One glance from you would cause the hearts to tremble inside of your enemies or those who were up against you. Just like in another poem in Tulu Islam, he says, کوئی اندازہ کر سکتا ہے اس کے زور بازو کا نگاہ مرد مومن سے بدل جاتی ہیں تقدیریں. That can anyone imagine the power that an arm of a believer contains when his mere glance can change destinies? Much like the Hadith Qudsi, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when a believer becomes a wali of mine, and when I love him, then I am basarahu alladhi yubsiru bihi, the sight with which he sees. But just like Iqbal is saying here, that requires what? It requires the wirasa of la ilaha illallah, the inheritance of tawheed and la ilah that we received. If we held on to it, then we can have that vision that would tremble the hearts of others. And we won't be able to do that unless we recognize for ourselves which path we're going to choose. Are we going to choose to become the slave of this world? Or are we going to choose to become the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make your choice.